All right. So, good morning, everyone. The head of Bioinformatics Department at Indonesia National Institute of Services, located at East Jakarta. So, in this great occasion, I'm so happy to be here at the second Bengkulu International Conference, ICON 2022. Thank you for this Bengkulu for inviting me, and also thank you for my beloved friends, Rizda and Andi, because we are actually the student at Asia University when I was a student at Master and PhD degree. So we pursue our study together. Alright, so in this great occasion, I would like to talk about the future of dark sector community. Main focus is in the technology, so we need to open our eyes how the technology would like to support the dark sector Indonesia in the roadmap of the community. But besides that, I would like to involve the bioinformatics department.
Okay. Baik.
Okay, so before we go to the future of the dark sector in Indonesia, let me introduce you to what bioinformatics first. Therefore, later on in the future, I hope that we can do the collaboration, we can do the training workshop. So, bioinformatics is actually the integration of computer science, statistics, and also biology. So, the union of three major fields. Therefore, in here, for example, we can use programming, R programming, or Python programming, or database, and all static to analyze the biological data. Biological data in here can be the data set. Everyone in here already familiar with the COVID-19, right? Yeah. So the RNA of the COVID-19 should be analyzed. Yeah. So bioinformatician actually analyze the RNA of COVID-19 to find out the variants of the COVID-19 in Indonesia. But besides that, in the computer science and statistics, we also learn about data, and also we learn about robotics, sensors, and then many other artificial intelligence concept in computer science. So many topics can be done in bioinformatics. So actually, with this three major degree, it can lead to multidiscipline, multi-skills. The graduate will have a various job fields in here. So this is actually, if you want to know about bioinformatics department at our university, so our class fully conducted in English. So our students, when they want to enter I3L, they need to have a TOEFL test score, for example, 450. So that's why they will be very easy to attach to the research and also project. So our students, after graduate, they already have a publication, for example, in Q1 or Q2 or Q3 journal. Yeah, and then we also support by the faculty at bioinformatics. So almost of our faculty hold doctoral degree, and they graduate from abroad, for example, from Taiwan, Australia, and Germany. And also for the bioinformatics study program, actually, we are the first bioinformatics study program in Indonesia since 2014. And I need to tell you that currently there are a lot of bioinformatics company in Indonesia. For example, Nala Genetics, GSI, Prodia, Albe Pharma. So they need a lot of bioinformatician. Therefore, bioinformatics is in high demand but low supply. Yeah, so you can consider to open bioinformatics at Bengkulu. Yeah. Okay, it doesn't work. All right, so this is actually the graduate profile picture of our alumni. Almost 100% of our alumni can get work, can get placement after they graduate or before they graduate. And our alumni can work and pursue postgraduate degree in Indonesia and also overseas. For example, 60.7% of our students can pursue their study directly through doctoral degree without master degree. So why? Because they have a capability in English. They have a capability in a research, doing a project. So we need to prepare the youth with the English, good English, with the research skill, with the project skill. Therefore, if they want to apply a scholarship to master and PhD degree, it will be very easy, right? So the government or the university will see their CV. When their CV posts the experiment in research and project, so of course it will be very easy to get funded by Indonesian government or abroad government. And our graduate also working in Indonesia. For example, 49.9% in here. So we really hope that later on bioinformatics will be well known, will be open in many provinces in Indonesia, and then we will be ready to prepare our youth to get more exposure in research and project. So what is the role of bioinformatics graduate? They can become the data analyst, programmer, researcher, health tech developer, big data engineering, artificial intelligence, and also bioinformatics specialists or omic experts in here. Kind of the thing is actually the uniqueness of our prodi, of our department, a combination of IT skill, and also the omics. So omics is the suffix of omics, proteomics, genomics, metagenomics, metabolomics, epigenetic is the omics. So the government focus will be in this area later on. All right, so this is our team. So we also open for the collaboration, for the training, workshop, supervision, and then collaboration in a project. For example, if you have a project and you need sequencing, you need to analyze it in bioinformatics pipeline. So please kindly contact us in this email, david.agustriao@i3l.ac.id. So I will be very happy to collaborate with all of you. All right, so now come back to the main presentation, the future of the health sector in Indonesia. But before that, we need to understand the problems, the current problems or the status quo of the health sector in Indonesia. So health sector in Indonesia, there are two health sectors, right? Primary care and also secondary health care. Primary care can be puskesmas, private clinics, and also the general practitioner. And then secondary health care can be both general hospitals and also the special hospital. So there are four main issues. The first issue is that the accessibility of the health data. So the health worker is very hard to access your health data, right? It's very difficult to access the health data set, because there is no access. You cannot access it through your handphone, right? You cannot access it through your company, no. So the accessibility of the health data is really difficult to be accessed. The second problem is that incomplete, inconsistent, and inaccurate health data. Why I can say like that? Because of what? Because, for example, this week, I do the treatment in hospital A, right? And then next week, I do the treatment in hospital B. Next 2 months, I do the treatment in hospital C. So my data is distributed in many hospitals, and each hospital have their own system. There is no standardization. Therefore, there is no integration of the health data. Is the data is valid? No, right? When you use one of the data, for example, you use one data set in hospital A for your research. I guarantee that your research will be biased. Yeah. And also if you as the government, when you want to create a policy based on the data in one hospital, I guarantee your policy is not correct. Yeah. Yeah, the problem is that there is no the standard, yeah, in here. So we believe that there is no standardization and integration of the health data in Indonesia. Yeah. And the fourth issue is that ineffective and inefficient health data recording. There are a lot of manual things, right? In Puskesmas, in the hospital, yeah. You do it by your hand repetitively. Yeah. So manual things still happen. A lot of procedures still manual. So this one of the thing need to be solved by digitalization. Yeah. Digitalization. We need to transform the way we work with the digitalization. Therefore, we expect that it can be more efficient, more patient safety, right? We can provide patient safety and also more accuracy, yeah, in terms of the research. Can you please move next slide? Slide. All right. So this is actually the focus of the Kemenkes, yeah, Ministry of Health of the Republic of Indonesia, the health technology transformation. As you can see that there are three things. There are three things that need to be focused. Yeah, so the first is that about the integration and development of the health data system. So we need to have the standardization and then integrate of our health data system. So it is expected that it can improve the health policy based on the accurate, update, and complete data. And the second, there are a lot of application of the health, right? So healthcare application system is anywhere, everywhere, but it's not standardized. Yeah. So the government will integrate and development of the healthcare application system that need to be standardized and integrated. Therefore, it is expected that it will have an efficient health service. For example, at Puskesmas, clinic, hospital, lab, and dispensary. And also we need health technology ecosystem development. So we need an innovation in the health sector. Yeah, you can check in all the hospital in Indonesia how many the local product of our health technology. Yeah, mostly we are importing the health technology to Indonesia, right? We don't create it by ourselves. So we need to move. Yeah, we need to create an innovation for the health technology. Yeah, we need to have our own product. Yeah, so every lecture in here need to move your research to the, how to say it, to the product. Yeah, to the product, not stop until the paper. Yeah, publish paper and stop now. But you need to make a product, make something new. Yeah. Okay, so this is the roadmap of the government. So in 2021, they start to begin to create the architecture, to create the design for these three things. And then in 2022, they will develop the focus in here, develop the integration and development of the health data, health application system, and health technology. And in 2023, they will implement it. So be ready, yeah. Be ready with the transformation of the health technology. So be ready with the artificial intelligence, be ready with the big data. Yeah, this is the keyword. Be ready with the digitalization, be ready with the biotechnology omics dataset. Yeah, so this is the keyword. And in 2024, they will expand the, how to say, the focus in here. All right, so this is actually the concept of the integration. So first, we are still in here, yeah, partner system. So actually, every hospital, every health industry, they have their own system. But later on, the government will create the standardization system. So all the system in here will be standardized in here. So we have the standard data set, right? And all the data set that fulfill the standardization will put in here, clinic health application. Therefore, later on, we will have these apps. You can download these apps later on, yeah? Citizen health apps. So everybody can know your history, medical record history. Then, for example, you will get the recommendation. Yeah, what will you do with your disease? So this is the example of the technology that actually already implement in some hospital in Jakarta. I'm not sure in Bengkulu whether this technology already implemented or not. Yeah, in Jakarta, some hospital already implement telemedicine service flow, telemedicine technology. So you can sit down at your home and you can open the apps. You can click consultation to Dr. A, for example. You can do the consultation and your data will be stored in the medical record. Then the doctor will give prescription, then they will send the drugs to your home. Yeah, so it's very efficient, right? Save your time, effective, and then efficient. Yeah, so some hospital in Jakarta already implement this. So I hope that at Bengkulu later on we will have the telemedicine. Yeah. So taken all together in here for the digitalization or technology transfer, we need to be ready with this keyword: digitalization, big data, artificial intelligence, and also omics. And make sure the application and the health data set should be integrated. All right, let us discuss one by one about the keyword of the health technology transformation. First is digitalization. So in digitalization, we need to make sure that we need to transform the manual or repetitive work toward the computerized, yeah? So we need to move on. So with the digitalization, we expect that it can enhance the efficiency, accuracy, improve the care, patient safety, and connect remote communities. So this is the example of digitalization, our current project, yeah, my ongoing project. So when you go to the hospital, then you check, then the doctor will prescribe a prescription, right? One of the activity that will be done by the staff or by the apotheker is drug interaction. Yeah, apotheker will check drug interaction, right? So commonly the apotheker or the staff will input the active compound one by one. Yeah, refer to the website, for example, Medscape or Drug Bank, yeah, to check the drug interaction, whether there is interaction of the drug or not. You can imagine if there are 200 prescription and each prescription they have, for example, 5 drugs. So each drug have 5 active compounds. So how long the apotheker will input the active compounds in here? Yeah, in this website. So we believe that this is inefficiency. Yeah, run out the time, run out the time. Yeah? And also how if the apotheker misspelling, yeah, input the wrong active compound. It's very dangerous, right? So it will relate it to the medication error. So that's why in here we try to do automated information system. We create a system. So in here the team is that IT, pharmacy, and bioinformatics. So in here, we will not do it alone. We will do a collaboration. Therefore, the result will be much more efficient and faster. Yeah. So in here, this is the results. Yeah. So by using our system, the apotheker or the staff only input the drug name only. For example, paracetamol. Yeah. They don't need to input the active compounds of the drug. They only input the drug name. So input drug name A, drug name B. Then there will be the interaction. So that is what we are doing currently. Later on, we will try to classify the interaction. For example, the interaction can be mild, moderate, and severe. Yeah. And after classification of the interaction, we will give the recommendation whether this prescription will be given to the patients or not. Yeah. So it will be benefit to all the hospital in Indonesia. This is another project, ongoing project of our team. We create ECG portable. So for the cardiovascular disease patients, when you want to check your ECG rate, you need to go to the hospital, right? Yeah, you need to go to the hospital and then you need to use the gold standard of the ECG check. Yeah, there are a lot of cable, right? But by using our product in here, you can take it home. Yeah, portable. You can do wherever. You can do whenever you want to do it. Whenever you want to check your ECG rate. So by using our product in here, you just need to attach 3 electrodes in your body, in your chest. Then this electrode, this product will connect to your handphone. Then your ECG data will be recorded to I3L server. Then we will do the analysis of your ECG rate. For example, in here, we can store your ECG rate for 1 minute. Yeah, per 1 minute. We can store it in our database. Then we will analyze whether your ECG rate is normal or you got diagnosed for the type of cardiovascular disease. So the visualization later on will be sent back to the handphone. Yeah, so you will know, oh, my ECG rate currently is bad. Yeah, I got diagnosed as the one type of the cardiovascular disease. So I need to go to the hospital. Yeah. So this is the way how we develop the health technology, how we transform the complicated procedure or the complicated methods into the efficiency. Yeah. This is how the way we transform the technology. So this one is, we already apply patent. Yeah. We already apply patent for this product. And next year, if we got funded, we want to do the validation. Maybe if Poltekkes, Kemenkes Bengkulu want to help us to do the validation at the hospital, we need patients, right? We need to, for example, 500 patients to try this product. And if the result is accurate, then yeah, we can use it in Indonesia for this product. Yeah, so the next steps, we need to do the validation in hospital for this product. So yeah, I'm very open for collaboration. Another project that we are doing is develop chatbot, yeah. For example, if you want to meet your doctor at hospital, you need to make a phone call, right? Or you need to go to the hospital. You need to be in queue and then asking the officer, try to, waiting so long, right, at the hospital. And then you can meet the schedule. But in here, in the chatbot, we try to develop the chatbot that can automatically create an appointment between you and your doctor. For example, in here, you just input your symptoms, yeah? And also you input your comorbidity disease. Then our chatbot, we already training our chatbot with machine learning methods. Yeah. So by receiving your symptoms and comorbidity disease, our chatbot will analyze, will do machine learning, and we will know what is your disease. And then we will link it to the related doctor. And we will find schedule of doctor, and we will give the appointment schedule to you directly. Yeah, so you don't need to go to the hospital. You don't need to spend your time. So you just use the chatbot. Yeah, so this kind of the thing is actually the efficiency or the digitalization of health sector in Indonesia. Okay. And another one is that we create how to say it, health monitoring. Yeah, health monitoring. For example, for you that have a stroke or cardiovascular, you need to have a very gradually treatment, right? For example, every day you need to consume drugs, and every week you need to go to a doctor. Yeah, some people in Indonesia ignore it. I don't want to eat a lot of drugs. Yeah, I'm already get healthy. Yeah, after the 1 week treatment, then you ignore that, but the effect is bad. Yeah, so we create these apps to monitor the patients, to make sure that the patient will drink the drugs, will consume the drugs, to make sure the patient will go to a doctor. Yeah. So if the patient ignore it, we will notice. Yeah, we will get notice. The patient will get warning, and the hospital will get notice. Yeah. So this application will be very helpful for the patient and also for a doctor to monitor health sector in Indonesia, especially for the patient that need a long-term treatment. Yeah. Okay, so how come we have that kind of the project, right? This is the tips, yeah, the tips. So you cannot think by yourself. No, you cannot stay, read the paper and give the research pipeline by yourself. No, you need to have a collaboration. You need to go to the industry, discuss with the hospital. Yeah. For example, in here, you need to read the paper, and then there is a clinical immersion. So you need to discuss, for example, to create ECG portable to detect cardiovascular disease. We need to discuss with doctor, yeah, cardiovascular disease patients. We need to discuss with the another IT team, right, and etc. So in here we need to do the clinical immersion. We need to make sure their comments, yeah, their feedback. Through their comment and feedback, we can know that our product is really good. Yeah, it's really relate to what they need. Therefore, in here we can create the idea based on their comments and suggestion. Then we can building the team. Yeah. So you will not work alone, yeah. Then we can prepare for the proposal to get funded and etc. Yeah, you can continue. Yeah, you can execute your proposal. So innovation in here should be solve the real problems, yeah. Should be solve the real problems. So if your innovation is only until paper, until published paper, it's not innovation yet. No, it's still idea. Yeah, it's not innovation. Yeah, you cannot stop until publish it in the paper, no. But you need the innovation should solve the real problems, and then the innovation should be scale up. Scale up in here means like this. For example, after you have the product will implement in hospital A. Yeah, then the product will implement in more than 10 hospitals. Then the product will be implemented in a national scale and etc. So that is what I mean by scale up. And then the innovation should be monetized. Yeah, you can get benefit by your product. So that's what we call innovation. Okay. All right. That is how the keyword of digitalization and health technology development that we need to consider currently in the current time. Now we go to the second keyword. Big data. Anybody in here already familiar with big data? Not yet. So big data is that the system that actually can store a lot of data, yeah, in a real time. Yeah. So for example, if we already have a system, integrated system of the medical record data set, you can imagine every hour how many data set come to the big data environment. A lot, right? Yeah, even in Indonesia, every second, for example, how many people do the treatment, right? And the data will be stored in the big data system. So real time. So that is what we call big data. Yeah. So there will be, yeah, for example, in here, the example is in Taiwan, yeah, National Health and how to say it, yeah, NHIRD, yeah, and NHIRD in here in Taiwan, they actually already implement a big data system since 1995. In Indonesia, until now, we haven't implemented big data. How come, right? So we need to be aware, yeah? We need to be aware with this keyword. Yeah, how come our big nation haven't implemented big data in the medical record, yeah? So in here, how big the data? Yeah, of course, the data will be gradually increased, yeah? Every second, every minute, every hours, yeah? And then what can you do with integrated medical record? As the government, of course, you can create a good policy, yeah, in the health sector. You can create, for example, a policy for particular disease, yeah, particular case. In the COVID-19 problems, how come Taiwan can identify which people actually can be the most affected by the COVID-19? Because they have this data set. We, Indonesia, we don't have the data set, right? Yeah, that is actually what can you do with an integrated medical record. We also can do the medical informatic research. We can predict the disease. We can predict the drug disease interaction. Of course, all together, if we take all together, it can improve health sector in Indonesia. Then now, after COVID-19, do you know this biological data, DNA data set, right? COVID-19, when we sequence the COVID-19 with the technology, we will have a digital data set of the COVID-19, yeah? The FASTA sequence of the COVID-19 using these sequencing machines. And currently, our government will focus in this data set, DNA data set. So you can imagine that every of us in here will have our DNA data set, yeah? So there will be a sequencing of the whole genome sequencing of our DNA, then it can be read in a digital way, then bioinformaticians will analyze it. So this is the proof, yeah? If our government actually focus on the DNA data set. So in here, the project is called BGSI, yeah? So biomedical genome, how to say it? I cannot read it. So this is actually the project of the government. So in here, the government will do whole genome sequencing, yeah, of many species, human, plants, animals, virus, bacteria. So all the DNA data will be gradually increased, right? It can become the big data. So who will be responsible to analyze the data? Of course, the bioinformatician, yeah? So what is the technology can do the sequencing? This one, yeah? The NGS technology. So as you can see, year by year, the price is decreasing, yeah, for the sequencing. And for example, in here, from 3 billion for one species to do the sequencing. So in 2013, it's only 1K. Yeah, so it's only significant. Yeah, the decrease of the price is significant. So what is sequencing? Why we need to have a DNA data? Yeah. So for example, in here, how can we know which gene, which protein related to cancer, lung cancer? Can a doctor see it manually? Which gene? The human have 30,000 genes inside our body, right? Yeah. How can a doctor see it physically? No, cannot. Yeah. So we need to do sequencing. So for example, in here, for the liver of the cancer patients, we take the biopsy and then we take the sample, yeah, biopsy, and we put it in here in the plate, and we put it in the NGS technology in here, sequencing. Then this machine will generate digital DNA, ACTG, yeah, ACTG. So from this data, actually can understand the expression of the whole gene in human. Yeah. So this one is for the cancer patients, and we can do it for the normal patients. Then we can compare the expression. Then we can find the biomarker in liver cancer. That is one of the reasons why we need to have sequencing data set. Yeah. So this is the new technology that all of us need to be aware. Yeah. All the health sector need to be aware. So later on, it is expected that in the future, each person in here will have each treatment. Yeah. Because currently, one drug is used for all the people, right? Yeah. So why the treatment in cancer is ineffective? Anybody know? When you get treated in the cancer, yeah, non-specific, right? So that's why we need to design the treatment, the specific treatment for the human, for example. So it's called population medicine. You can search on the internet, yeah, precision medicine or population medicine. Singapore already implemented, but we haven't, because we just have the technology. We haven't sequencing all the species in Indonesia, yeah. So if we can sequence all the species in Indonesia, wow, it's very good, right? We have a lot of biodiversity, yeah, a lot of natural compounds, yeah, plants, animals. It can be a treatment, right? Our herbal, yeah, Indonesia herbal can be a treatment. We can sequence it, and then we can try to do silico analysis using bioinformatics to see whether this compound can be a treatment for cancer, diabetes, and etc. Okay. So this is actually what can we do with DNA dataset. This one, yeah. We can do immunoinformatics. We can design a vaccine, yeah. We can design a T-cell epitope to formulate vaccine for Indonesian populations. So this is our research, collaboration with biomedicine and also with a doctor from University of Indonesia. So it's already published in Q1, yeah, in the vaccines journal. So in here, we try to develop a vaccine for the COVID-19, yeah. Yeah, so what we call in here T-cell epitope vaccines, yeah. So we use HCl of the population in Indonesia. Therefore, it can be specific. Yeah, the vaccine will be specific to Indonesian population. So this is our pipeline to design the vaccine. So we use SLA class 1 and SLA class B. And then we try to do the entropy analysis. So the main idea in here is that we want to focus, because HLA in here will be different between Indonesia, Thailand, Germany, yeah. So when you design a vaccine, but you don't consider the HLA, it will be not really effective. Yeah. But if we design vaccine specifically for a specific population, it will be very effective. Okay. So beside that, with the omics data, we can do a research in cancer epigenetics. Yeah. We can, for example, try to find a biomarker in cancer, as what I said before. So this is my current project. I want to find the potential biomarker in each cancer type, yeah, by using DNA dataset, but in a specific population. For example, in a specific race, specific cancer stage, and specific cancer type. So the population will be very specific. So I hope that later on, in here, when you click the gene name in here, there will be the epigenetic regulator, there will be the validation, docking, dynamics, and also protein-protein interaction in here. Therefore, we can continue it to the wet lab analysis. For example, if we find, oh, gene A is the potential biomarker in liver cancer, then we can prove it in the wet lab. Yeah. So this is what I'm doing currently. And then you also need to be aware with artificial intelligence. Yeah. So artificial intelligence is really helpful for the accuracy and etc. For example, in here to detect the colonoscopy, yeah, in here. So when you want to detect colonoscopy, the current hot issue in the colonoscopy is that the use of artificial intelligence, yeah, to detect the polyps and also removal of the polyps. Yeah. So in here, by using the image, yeah, image processing, we can understand is there any polyps or not in here. Yeah, by using artificial intelligence. So it's also very good in the health sector, right? The accuracy, yeah. Yeah, beside a doctor, we also have another way to detect the polyps by using artificial intelligence, for example, in here. All right, so okay, so next. Can you press next? Okay. So we also do the, how to say it, do the meta-analysis in here to prove whether artificial intelligence is accurate or not, yeah, for detecting of the polyps. As you can see that the accuracy in here is all of the study using the artificial intelligence in here have a very good accuracy, right? 0.9, 0.9. The best score is 1. But in here, this study have 0.9 accuracy. So means that what? Means artificial intelligence is very accurate, right? So we can implement it in the health sector as well. And as you can see, the sample size is also very big in here. Yeah. With this high accuracy, of course, we need to prepare our skill. Yeah. We need to update our skill. Yeah, to understand more about the skill that need in digitalization, artificial intelligence, big data, health tech development. Therefore, our health sector will be good and good. Yeah. All right. I think that's all from me. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Mr. David, for such a very interesting and informative